Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome you to the May 21st Board Conference and Business Meeting of the School District of Haverford Township. If we could take a minute for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States
of America, to the republic
for which
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Regal, could you call the roll, please?
Okay. Dr. Crispin?
Here.
Mr. Fleischer?
Here.
Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Mingy?
Here.
Mr. Cinto?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz?
Here.
Ms. Snodgrass?
Here.
Ms. Wiedemann?
Here.
Mr. Feinberg?
Here. Thank you very much, Bob. I'll accept the motion to approve the official minutes from the May 7th, 2020 regular public board meeting.
Cinto moves.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Ms. Deacon, has anybody sent in any comments this evening?
No, we have not received any emails for comments this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is middle school student report. Hannah?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to present to you. Families picked up personal items from the middle school this week. Everyone seemed pleased with the process and service. It was also nice to have some brief, socially appropriate contact between staff, families, and students. Some teachers began pioneering synchronous or live teaching last week. Our teachers and students did a wonderful job, and we collected a lot of valuable information from the experience. We will continue to synchronous or live teaching this week with our volunteers and begin planning to expand and offer more opportunities as we move forward this school year. Some of my teachers have implemented this into their teaching as well. In addition, my friends have used this as an opportunity to ask questions and gather new information. I think this is a great way of communication because it allows for fast and easily accessible information. There is a less chance of miscommunication or technical difficulties. We are excited that we will be having a spring and 8th grade awards in June. Information regarding the spring and 8th grade awards was shared with families in this week's newsletter. The awards will be pre-taped to ensure a high-quality audio and visual product for families, and we will have a YouTube watch party to share the experience with everyone. The middle school has begun planning to welcome the rising 6th grade students. The administrators at the middle school are working closely with the administrators and teachers at the elementary schools to begin the scheduling process for students. The middle school administrative team will also hold a virtual orientation for families and students, join a morning meeting to meet and greet with kids, and host a virtual question and answer meeting, which will include the current 6th grade students on the panel. Memorial Day will be observed on Monday, May 25th. I hope you find a moment to honor the people who paid the ultimate sacrifice while serving in the U.S. military. Thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Hannah.
Nice job, Hannah.
Thank you.
Next is our high school student report. Erica?
Good evening, staff, students, community, and members of the board. My name is Erica Borvey, and I'm a junior at the high school. In an effort to help out during these trying times, I've been working at the local YMCA, which is offering childcare services for essential workers in our community. One of the most heartwarming moments I experience every day is seeing children in our local elementary schools coming in each morning with Chromebooks provided to them by the school district. Excitement in their eyes each day to log into Google Hangout meetings and interact with their peers and teachers reminds me that there truly is a special bond between a teacher and their student that is created in the classroom and lasts a lifetime. Recently, I also realized the slogan "Built for Tough" has never been more true. Students and clubs have been persevering through these times and are more creative than ever. The Haverford Drama Club live streamed their virtual spring showcase on YouTube as well as on social media. During the Pennsylvania FBLA Virtual Awards of Excellence on May 15th, several high school students placed in the top 10 positions for statewide competitive events. Best Buddies has been hosting Zoom meetings bi-weekly for peers to interact with their buddies, and they even hosted a virtual Kahoot game yesterday. The girls' track team has been staying engaged, hosting virtual team lunches every week and organizing virtual track meets to keep up team morale. AP testing began on Monday, May 11th, and while this year's tests are unique and unprecedented, students have successfully adapted to these new testing procedures thanks to support from peers and teachers. With the assistance and input of students, faculty, and administrators, graduation plans were finalized, and emails were sent by Principal Dunnigy detailing events for June 11th. Last but certainly not least, a Haverford Commissioner's proclamation was issued declaring June 11th a day of celebration in Haverford Township. Evidently, there definitely has been no shortage of age pride in the past few months. The overwhelming amount of support for the graduating class, as well as thorough communication and understanding between students and their teachers, have helped create a thriving and productive system that is recognizant of everything Haverford stands for.
Thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Rushi.
Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. This evening, we want to recognize the involvement of our middle school students who have provided such insightful information all throughout the year. These students gather information from their peers in the buildings, from talking with teachers, talking with Mr. Haran and the administrators. They prepare their remarks. I think everyone will agree they're extremely well spoken, and it's very clear that they are prepared every time they attend a meeting. And they're allowing us to see a little bit into the school, a little bit of the happenings that involve both the students, staff members, and teachers, administrators in there as well. And their voice during this time, I think everyone will agree, has been particularly helpful to hear from these students and to know what they're learning, what the learning experience has been like. So our students, this will be our last meeting with our middle school students. So we want to recognize them in appreciation for their time, their contributions. As a student representative for the Board of School Directors, and I'm going to call the name of each one of those students. So first, I'd like to present a certificate to Anaya Eberhardt. Okay. And thank you, Anaya, for your dedication each and every week that you presented. Anna Maloney.
I'm out of town, so I don't have my certificate.
Okay, Anna, you're all right. And the wonder of technology allows Anna to be here with us anyway, even though she is not in the township. Thank you for making the time to be with us tonight as well. In appreciation for your time and contributions, Jan Swan.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And we also want to appreciate Hannah Swersting.
Thank you.
And next on our list, Reese Wagner.
Thank you.
We also appreciate the time of Sarah Yang.
Thank you.
And finally, not least, Nathaniel Duty.
Thank you very much.
So we thank all of you for all of your work and for giving us a little bit of a picture into the middle school. And maybe some of you will consider taking on this role as you move into high school.
Thank you all. It's been great to have you this year.
We'll move on now. Mr. Feinberg, our next portion of the superintendent's report is our monthly construction project update. And so we have Mr. Matthews here from CB Development. We have an additional portion onto the construction project update this evening that involves Ryan Orr from KCB Architects. And the focus of that discussion is going to be an update on what we have looked at with the high school project and how we're proposing to move forward there along with the timeline.
Great.
All right, great. Thank you all for having us as always. It's been great to get back to work. I'm sure a lot of people have been happy to see, I'll start with Linwood and then we'll move to the high school. But you can see work's progressed. We were able to start work back on May 4th. So it's been a few weeks now. The workforce is really ramped up. You can see right behind me in my picture, the masons installing brick. This is all on the back side of the building. And before you know it, here in about a week, they'll be on the front side of the building along Lawrence Road. So you'll see a lot more activity going on. But things have been moving along well. As I said, the workforce is ramped up. All the workers are following all their safety protocols from COVID-19, wearing their masks, trying to stay separated. You know, certainly had a few little bumps in the road, I'll say, but over the past week especially, I would say the workers have really stepped it up and are really trying to follow all those protocols, which is great news. So over the next few weeks, we really have to pin down our updated project schedule. As you all know, we didn't work for 6 weeks, so we need to work with the contractors and finalize kind of a revised updated schedule to see where the completion date will fall. But we're confident that it won't be too far off where it was before. So things are progressing really great, in all honesty. So we'll hope that continues. And so that's where we are. If anybody has any questions about Linwood or the progress, we can pause for a moment and then I'll jump on to the high school.
Any questions from the board?
You mentioned the masonry work. Can you just talk about other activities at the site and the kind of work that's going to be done over the next month or so as people drive by?
Sure, absolutely. So the inside of the building of the classroom wing, you can't see a lot that's going on, but most of the major infrastructure is in. All of the hot water and cold water piping. The electricians have probably 70% of the classrooms roughed in, you know, outlets, those type of things. The bathrooms are mostly roughed in and piped in. The roof of the building is probably about 75% complete, except for, you know, there's a lot of detail work. So inside the guts of the building, a lot of the mechanical, electrical, plumbers, a lot of work's been going on there that you can't really see when you drive by. The water meter pit was set today. Out front, you'll see a gigantic concrete pit that was put in. So a lot of good things have been happening, and that will continue over the next month. And the entire skin of the building will continue. Start to see most likely some metal panels, and then windows will follow not too far behind that. So the idea is the building needs to be enclosed and weather tight by this fall.
Other questions from the board? Okay. Ken?
All right, so moving on to the high school. As you know, the project team, especially KCBA, of course, has been hard at work putting together the documents for the project as we continue through the design process. The great news is last week, the team presented to the Township Planning Board. They voted to approve our land development, which is really, it's one of the next steps that, hey, all the site work, stormwater management, those type of things that they review have been approved. So that's a great next step. The facade engineer reviewed the high school just to take a look at, various little things, cracking, missing caulking. The building's 70 years old, so they've been looking at that. So they'll have a report put together over the next few weeks so that we can implement some of that repair work as part of KCBA's documents for the construction project. And then, as I said, Ryan, who's presenting here, and his team of mechanical, electrical engineers, they've all been working diligently to continue moving the process forward. So we're kind of at that, I'll say maybe 60 to 70% documentation. So really tonight's update is just to fill the board in on where they are, talk a little bit about the project overall budget and the project schedule. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan to walk through the presentation.
Great, thank you, Ken. It seems I'm not able to share. Oh, here we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back in front of you. Thank you for having us. Even though not able to be in the same room, it's great to see everyone and be working as part of this team on the high school project. So it's been quite a while since you've seen me and our team here talk about the high school project, but we've been busy, very busy during design development, as Ken noted. So part of what's been happening during design development, certainly we've been working with our engineers on the building pieces and developing those documents in order to move to construction documents, which is the next phase that we're moving towards. But also a lot of planning has gone into the site and just the project in general, how the sequence of things are going to happen throughout the building and on site. As Ken mentioned, two of the biggest pieces with the township have been approved, which was zoning and most recently the Planning Commission approval last Thursday, and we anticipate being in front of township commissioners in June for their approval. Also, we've been busy meeting with a lot of your district administration as well as district facilities, but also the high school administration and staff and teachers as well, getting their input on the project. In fact, next week we'll have our last meeting before we go full out on construction documentation with the high school teachers, both general education, science, music, and fitness, in order to get their last input into their rooms before we move forward with final documentation. Also, as part of design development, we've secured a third-party independent cost estimate, and we'll share those numbers towards the end of the presentation. So as a brief review of the project, the existing high school sits there, the red roof, we'll say. To the left is the existing middle school on the campus. So to the north of the existing high school, just off of the existing 3-story classroom wing, that's where we're going to be adding another 3-story classroom addition. And that's part of phase one. When you hear us talk about phase one, that's phase one. In addition to the expanded parking lot, which also sits behind the high school, those two pieces are phase one. Phase two would then be the single story, the 1-story classroom addition, which houses music, but also incorporates renovation of music and fitness classrooms as well on the southern end of the building. So once again, an existing floor plan of the high school. And again, in the top right image is where that 3-story classroom wing and science lab addition is going. We can talk more about that when we get to that individual area. And then the bottom left hand on the overall plan in yellow is the new music addition, and then in blue is the music and fitness rooms renovation. So as you can see, we're progressing on the design. Once again, we're using durable materials, brick, concrete masonry units, which also match both of those match well with the existing aesthetic of the high school. And they're very durable materials, so they'll be there for a long time. Once again, this is the 3-story classroom wing, which is phase 1. Moving to the other side of the building, off of the parking lot, phase 2, the 2 new music rooms, band to the left there, orchestra to the right in the corner. Once again, using durable materials, brick, DCMU. We're also introducing metal panel to this addition to give it a little bit more of an accent. It's a little bit more prominent piece on the site. You'll be able to see it from the athletic fields and approaching the driveways. So inside the band classroom, lots of space, great acoustic qualities in this space, which will facilitate the music education that will happen in this space, in this classroom. And once again, orchestra classroom a little bit smaller, but once again, very well acoustically set up, and ample space for the expanded programs. So a little bit more detailed look at the 3-story classroom wing, which is phase 1. Once again, we're coming off of the existing classroom wing, which is a bit of an L, reverse L now, so we're making it a T. So on the lowest level, we have 4 classrooms that we're adding, and at the end, a lab. On the upper 2 floors, we've actually, through the course of speaking with administration and teachers, the layout has changed a little bit, and we'll be building 3 labs on the 2nd floor as well as the 3rd floor. The goal of these labs are to be established as physics or engineering labs, what we would call dry labs. So there's not chemicals or anything like that, but these labs, classrooms would serve those students and those programs. So looking at a total overall picture, we would build 11 classrooms, which breaks down to 7 labs and 4 general classrooms. The thing with these dry labs is they could also double as general classrooms when they're not being utilized as physics labs, things like that. So they're very flexible in that manner. And then additionally, in order to connect that 3-story addition, the phase 1, back into the classroom addition, we need to convert 3 existing classrooms into a corridor, but the balance of that space would become a small group instruction room, which is still a viable instruction space that high school teachers will readily use. So we have a total gain of 7 labs, 1 classroom, and 3 SGIs with phase 1. Additionally, as part of the investigation through design development, it was understood that existing science lab renovations would actually assist in creating more space within the building. So right now, the plan that you're looking at is the 3rd floor chemistry classrooms, I'll call them. They're not entirely set up to be labs. They are a little bit larger room, which is what we would typically see in a chemistry lab setup. But a lot of them don't have gas the entire way around the room. Some don't have all the sinks that they need, and others don't have fume hoods, which they would need in those rooms in order to function as full-fledged chemistry wet labs, we would call those. So part of the plan for this area of the building, in order to open up regular classroom space that is actually currently being used as chemistry labs, we would extend the gas lines around these 6 labs on the 3rd floor. We would also add 4 fume hoods into the 4 classrooms that currently don't have them. And in one of the labs, they don't have perimeter sinks because the way that lab was designed, they're actually in the center. But in order to make them all uniform and work the same way, we would add perimeter sinks to that lab. And that would gain 6 full-fledged chemistry labs, which opens up, once again, as I said, the regular classroom space for other groups, English, math, things like that. Moving to phase 2, on the other side of the building, once again, a 1-story classroom wing addition. So that's down by the gymnasium auditorium, just outside the existing band room and orchestra room. That's where we would add on in yellow to create the new orchestra and band rooms with their associated storage and practice areas. And then internal to the building, we would renovate the existing band room into chorus and expand Lifetime Fitness into the existing orchestra room, roughly. And then we'd have a corridor connecting from the existing corridor back to the new orchestra and band rooms. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner, the existing chorus room would be converted to storage from behind the stage in order to assist in those productions. So once again, the one-story classroom addition, we're going to build 2 classrooms, band classroom and an orchestra classroom, and then renovate 2 spaces into chorus classroom as well as a fitness classroom. As for the site, how the project has been progressing, as Ken said, we're good in our site phasing, as well as our stormwater management and all those pieces that we need to build the buildings. Additionally, in phasing, it's split pretty well. So the 3-story classroom wing, the top hand right side, is the phase 1 addition, and that will be built at the same time as the additional parking, which will also host stormwater management underneath of it. That will is planned to actually take some of the additional stormwater from the field. So we're actually upsizing that a little bit in order to help with the overall site stormwater management as a whole. And then phase 2, we would come back and build the 1-story classroom addition, the music and fitness addition down there in the bottom left, and complete the associated site work needed to create that addition. So moving to costs. So the third-party cost estimate came back. This was their estimate from schematic design. So you can see phase 1 total was around $10 million. Phase 2 was around 6.5 for a total project of $16.5 million. As we move to design development, you can see phase 1 decreased a little bit and phase 2 increased a little bit. And there's a the reason for that is that the way that the site work is broken out, you can see the phase 1 site work number is roughly the same. There's a little bit more site work in phase 2 now than there was before, just how the phasing is working out. Additionally, as part of our zoning requirements from the township, we're required to build 50% of the new roof as green roof. So that cost is added into the phases as well. Additionally, working through the project, there's a little bit of interior scope expansion for phase 2, just to connect the aesthetic between the existing athletic and performing arts areas and our new corridor. And as well, the mechanical system that will be built as part of phase 2 will facilitate a gymnasium HVAC upgrade that we'll see here on the next slide. So the other 2 pieces that we've been looking into at the request of the board is to take a look at what other pieces in the high school need to be updated or included in the project. So the first of those is the HVAC infrastructure upgrade, which is 2 large mechanical units in the basement of the high school, which are called the chillers, which help run the HVAC, the heating, ventilating, air conditioning of the high school. Those are nearing the end of their life cycle. So you can see that cost there would be to replace those. The second additional piece to look at is air conditioning the gymnasium, which is the last piece in the building that currently does not have air conditioning. So it's the main gymnasium and the locker rooms. And as I noted before, some of the additional costs in phase 2 actually includes a chiller, which serves phase 2, but also would serve the gymnasium, is sized to handle both of those areas. So this gymnasium HVAC cost, were to occur, would have to happen in tandem or after phase 2. So once again, looking at those added costs, from schematic design to design development, we're in the same range. With those 2 additional costs that we were asked to look at between the HVAC infrastructure and gymnasium HVAC, we're at a total cost, including soft costs. So that's not just construction cost, but a total project cost, estimated project cost around $20.2 million. And as a note, the work that Ken spoke about with the facade, we're still awaiting that final report from that facade consultant, and the exact scope is waiting to be confirmed. And with that final scope, we'll have a final cost estimate, but we, along with CV Development, estimate between $100,000 and $300,000. So with next steps, as I talked about, we would move into construction documents, secure one more cost estimate from that third-party cost estimator, Brecker and Frondorf. And then we look to bid the project in the fall. So in the fall, we ask the board to not only bid the project, but also accept bids. And this would be for phase one. Then in December, we would award the construction contracts. January, we would start construction. Then a quick 9 months later, that phase one addition would be ready for students to occupy it and use it. And then phase two, that schedule is yet to be determined. We would hope that would be bid roughly a year from now, but again, we're still working out those exact details. So with that, I can take any questions. If there's any discussion items that you'd like to cover, feel free to ask.
Questions, comments from the board?
For the HVAC improvements, when would the decision need to be made for each of those in relation to either phase one decisions or phase two decisions? So
that would be well, once again that's paired. Really, the HVAC infrastructure could go with either. It is essentially we're expanding the building and not doing anything else to the chillers. So it would be helpful to do that in phase one, but it could be done with either phase. And then, as noted with the gymnasium HVAC, that would have to be done with phase two or after phase two. So yeah, unfortunately, that one can't be.
And Bridget, it would be ideal to have that HVAC infrastructure done as part of phase one. So we'll bid it as an ad alternate. And you never know in a bidder's market how those costs come in, and it could be very advantageous and how aggressive the bidders are. And it may be something that can be done as part of phase one. So a lot of it is dependent on that, but we'll have not just this, but a handful of other small alternates. For example, the parking lots in real disarray. So, we're going to be putting brand new asphalt in. So you might have an ad alternate to re-top coat the other bad sections. So there's little things like that aren't listed here specifically. But that certainly would be a number one priority for the building.
And Bridget, I know you are certainly aware of this, but we know that there are members of the public listening, and folks do sometimes watch our board meetings afterwards. This, like so many other things, will come down to a matter of finances. We have a finite dollar amount that we have already borrowed. We've discussed, as also from being with finance liaisons, the potential challenges with any future borrowing. So we would need to be mindful of that. But I think having it as an ad alternate gives us some time to look at, how things unfold in the economy.
Agreed, right. And I know that there are HVAC pipeline projects at 2 of our elementary schools too, and trying to figure out how all of these could be accommodated with financing and schedules.
Antoinette?
Yeah, Dr. Rushi touched on one of the points I wanted to bring up, but I do think that it's helpful just to remind the public that this is work that we had already anticipated prior to the coronavirus. And I guess if we could just remind folks, phase one, I know that we have already borrowed for. Is that also true for phase two?
No, that is not. And that's actually what, there was a point in time, Antoinette, folks might remember, where we had even considered, would it just be one cohesive project? And before we could make a final decision on that, I think the economic downturn sort of forced that decision that there will definitely be phase 1 and phase 2. With that being said, phase 2 is equally as important. Because, and again, another reminder to the public, this is planning for students who are already in our school system. So those areas, the classroom in the single-story wing, are, in need of additional space for the students that will occupy that area as well. But we just have the money to answer your question for phase 1.
And then, sorry, I have another question as well. We know when we previously talked about the Linwood project starting back up, I know that there are obviously measures in place now due to the social distancing orders and things like that that have added costs to Linwood. And so, assuming that, and sorry, if you go back to the slide of the timeline.
Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
Okay, so let's see. It says phase 1 construction begins January 2021. Obviously, we don't know what's going to be happening then. But is my assumption correct that, extra PPE, altered schedules, things like that, that have added costs to Linwood are not included here?
Well, yes, that's correct, Antoinette. But remember, so Linwood has its own budget and it has its own contingency. So all of those costs, we're tracking them, and we're very much on top of, having been back to construction only 3 weeks now. The contractors are going to be submitting their costs monthly for PPE, cleaning supplies, those type of things. And those aren't, honestly, those are not large costs. What we want to be very cognizant of is working with them, where they're claiming any lost time, those type of things, that there's a fair resolution to that with the manpower that's on site. Right now, to be frank, we don't see a lot of lost time. In the morning, certainly, the workers have to check in. But as far as production, we're not seeing a lot. So that's going to be a negotiation as we go through this. Part of that point of the schedule, I stated that they have to finish putting together, is how much this has been pushed out, the project, because then you have longer, you have superintendents on site longer, project managers on site longer, those things. So, but, we're confident we can negotiate those costs and be within the project budget. But we will certainly push back on the contractors.
Right. So I guess, things are going out to bid and things like, will these sorts of, contingencies and issues be within the bids themselves?
Yes. So that would be whatever status we are at that time. If, all of these same measures, they will be part of the bid. So any CDC requirements will be included in the bid document. So the contractors would have to include those costs as part of their bid.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Kristen?
Ryan or Ken, would you be able to speak to the cost of this project in relation to Linwood? Because it looks like it's nearing about 2/3 the cost of what we're going to be spending on the Linwood project, which at face value looks like it's a more involved project and more bang for our buck. So could you just talk about the costs involved with this project and how that does or does not relate to what we're doing at Linwood?
Yes, sorry, I'm pulling up a spreadsheet here. Ryan, where did we land on this? We were about a little over $300 a square foot.
Yes. Yeah, we're at $314 a square foot currently. So part of that is Linwood is a bigger project as a whole. I believe that cost was in the high 200s. So you are going to pay a little bit more because it's a smaller package. So there's less work, so you're not getting that same bulk rate, we'll say. And also there's no one good spot to add everything all together. So we weren't able to add all the classrooms and music rooms all in the same spot to try to get one big project all at the same time. So that's two of the reasons for a little bit higher cost here at the high school.
And the one other factor with that, because phase 2 is done later, so you have escalation, Kristen. So you have you don't have it in front of you, but there's almost $300,000 just in a premium of 5% cost. Just because it's going to be done and bid a year and a half later. So that right off the bat is a premium. And just separating a project like this out, you're kind of making these two mini projects. So you have your real high cost of foundations, structural steel, and you don't have a lot of square footage to spread out those costs. So that's why that cost is more of a premium. Whenever you do a renovation or a smaller addition, you're always going to have a much higher premium than a new building with a lot of square footage.
Yes, thanks.
Ari?
Am I muted? There I am. Hi, Ken mentioned the parking lot expansion and possibly doing some touch-up. I wanted to know, the township, if you process a real estate transaction here in Haverford, you have to redo your curbs when they're not code. And so a lot of neighbors have half or portions of their curbs done. I'm wondering if we have an expansion and get this nice new parking lot, we just do some touch-up here or there, versus have we analyzed the entire parking lot, and do we need to do it all at once while we're doing an expansion versus patches on the old stuff?
Sure, great point, Ari. So I know out in front of the high school, the district had recently just replaced the sidewalk along Mill, a large section, where Ryan's pointing with his cursor there. As part of the approval process, new handicap ramp is being added right there in front of the high school, and we'll be improving actually to the left, Ryan, another handicap ramp there. And then we are going to, as we finalize construction documents and analyze the alternates that we try and include in the bid, is to your exact point. Okay, we have X amount of linear feet of curb that's completely deteriorated. Can we, let's include putting that as an added alternate to replace it. And, as Maureen pointed out, there's a budget we have to work within. And hopefully, we'll be able to select some of those items if we get advantageous bids. So we certainly are looking at that as part of the project.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Well, thank you both very much. We appreciate the update. We'll look forward to continuing.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is Superintendent's Remarks. Dr. Rushi. You're muted.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a number of remarks to offer this evening. However, I need to start with some sad remarks, and that is expressing our condolences to the family of Michelle Berman. Michelle passed away this week. Michelle was an employee in our middle school who served the children and staff over there as an instructional assistant. And so I wish to start my remarks by offering our condolences as a school community to the family of Michelle Berman. I will move on and talk a little bit about our work moving forward. I will share on behalf of the Haverford Township Education Foundation that their giving campaign raised $18,000 to allow the Ed Foundation to provide some support for our students who are in need. They're doing a phenomenal job working together and very closely with our social workers. And we will continue to remind families because we know circumstances can change on a weekly basis within any household. And we'll be reminding our families, our social workers are here for you to reach out to them. They can put people in touch with resources. They can now provide additional resources to families in need. So we congratulate the Ed Foundation on a terrific accomplishment. If there is anyone who wishes to give, I know they are still accepting donations. You can access their information on their website. Our teachers and principals, administrators are very busy focusing on the remaining weeks of this school year and looking at, in some instances, how they can redesign year-end activities. I've seen some of the communication going out, from the buildings to parents, letting them know how these very important milestone events for our students are going to be recognized. We appreciate the township our township commissioners actually passed 2 proclamations at their meeting last week. One is recognizing the achievement of those students who are in transition years and have achieved the milestones, and for the teachers and the parents who have worked with them. So for our children moving from 5th into 6th grade, and for the children moving from 8th grade into the high school level, we have a copy of that proclamation. I think it's on our website. Anna can let us know a little bit later. And there's a second proclamation that we'll talk about in a little bit. So right now our focus is predominantly on these remaining weeks and wrapping up the school year. In June, the focus is going to move district-wide to planning for the fall. But rest assured that while teachers and principals and administrators are focusing on wrapping up the year now, my colleagues in the departments of facilities, transportation, food service, curriculum, technology are all well underway in their discussions of what the fall could potentially look like for us. And many of those discussions involve colleagues in job-alike positions, either in other school districts in Delaware County or some of our counterparts in Montgomery and Chester County. We really are all in this together. And while there may not be a one-size-fits-all solution, it's nice to have the opportunity to brainstorm some of the varied approaches that can be taken to opening school. I mean, everyone to a person. The goal is, how do we open? How do we have students in with us doing what we feel our teachers do best, and that is working with our students. Beyond the job-alike meetings, we also participate periodically in meetings at the county level. It was just today there was a call held for all Delaware County superintendents. Members of county council were on that call and just talking about how they can support the work moving forward. So I imagine it will continue to be a very busy summer, unlike any other summer, with our continued planning moving forward. We know there's a task force that exists at the state level, and we have been told sometime in June, maybe around mid-June, we will be getting a report out of that task force. And that task force is looking at, how do we open schools and what are the recommendations that can be made to school districts. So we will have that. If we are able to get that by mid-June, that would be timed nicely for us and many other districts, looking at, that's when we're all going to start bringing teachers on board into the discussion and the planning for the fall. In 2 weeks, our next board meeting, Jen Saxa will talk with us about how our summer programs that we offer are going to be offered virtually and what that can look like. And we'll also give a little more of an update into what that staff planning will look like for the 4 days that teachers will be involved in that planning. And then I fully expect that, at our June 18th board meeting, at our July board meeting, that this will be a constant topic that we'll be providing those updates for parents. I will be meeting during the summer. I don't typically meet with IDC, but I've been in touch with the leadership in IDC, and we are going to, hold meetings for them so that they can be kept up to date in terms of what our planning looks like. I asked Mr. Dunnigy to join us this evening and just share a little bit of information about our culminating experiences for students at the high school. Probably the group of students who really are losing out the most. But I applaud the work of the team that Mr. Dunnigy brought together. That team had students on it, teachers on there, administrators. I think they've come up with some exciting ways to redesign the close of the school year and hopefully make it as special a time as possible for the students. So Mr. Dunnigy, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Rushi. Redesign is a great word for what we're doing. But I do want to do a couple quick thank yous before we get started. Our committee has been great. We've done a lot of work with also Mr. Rampling from Transportation, Chief Viola. Also on our committee is Dr. Rushi, Miss Deacon, Miss Christensen, Mr. Anderson has been very involved in all of our plans. All those people I mentioned, I talk to almost daily about senior events. And the parents, of course, have been awesome. They send me emails of things that they've seen around the country, and we bring that back to the committee and we see what can work. And then they sent some creative ideas just on their own that we've incorporated into some of our events. That some are surprises, so I can't give away all of our secrets, but we really are looking forward to graduation and the other events based on everyone's input. So I just want to run through quickly some of the senior events. Two events that are down in the future are July 31st. If the sanctions are lifted, we're going to have a little gathering and yearbook signing. The committee and the seniors wanted a day on the calendar that they could look forward to. No matter what day we chose, we knew we'd run into complications with vacations and other things, and we don't even know if we're going to be able to pull off July 31st. But at least we have it on the calendar, and hopefully we could do something that day. And then the other day is the day before Thanksgiving. We're going to have a luncheon for the students. So it might be the first time they're back in the building since March 13th. So we want to, do something. Usually Thanksgiving is a big reunion weekend. And we're going to work it out. Right now it's 12 o'clock. We're going to have the luncheon, but we do have a little bit of flexibility in all our plans in case the students aren't back from, wherever they go next. And then yesterday we had 17 seniors do speeches, auditioned for the senior speaker at graduation. And that was one of the toughest things we do all year, is trying to pick just one person to speak at graduation. And we did whittle it down to one speaker, and that will be announced next week. And it will be an excellent speech, but it's really tough. So we did 17 Google Hangouts with 20 committee members, and we popped back and forth between all the Google Hangouts. So it was an interesting process, and the students once again rose to the occasion, and that's what we're seeing in all of our planning. The students are really stepping up and doing remarkable things. Next Wednesday night at 6:30, we're going to have our senior awards. There are community and athletic awards. So any award where usually there's a monetary value to the awards given by community members, alumni. So that's a great night. Mike Mullen is our MC, and he taped the awards ceremony today, along with Dr. Rushi and myself. We'll make our appearances, and I think it's going to be good. It's definitely different, but we're looking forward to it, and he did a wonderful job. And then we have 2 other award ceremonies down the line. We have an athlete recognition breakfast that we're gonna do. It's just make your own breakfast this year. And we do in the evening our departmental, our activity awards to honor all the students who have won a department award and also participated in activities as a senior. So we want to recognize those students. So that'll be June the 4th. And then we, before we get to graduation, the seniors still have to fill in their senior survey. And the senior survey is what you're going to be doing next year. It's part of their transcript process. So down the road, maybe even 15 years from now, somebody asks for a transcript. We need to know, where they are and what they're doing. So it's important that they fill out the senior survey by June 1st. And then on June 8th, we're going to, we have to collect their textbooks and their Chromebooks, those students who aren't purchasing Chromebooks. We do have to collect their books, especially in the financial crisis that we're under. We just can't give away free stuff. So we have to collect their books, and it's their last opportunity to, as a student, to visit their elementary school, albeit it'll be outdoors. We're going to the 5 elementary schools so they can drop their books off at the place they started. And even for those who didn't go to elementary school here, they choose their nearest elementary school, and it's a place where they can drop their stuff off. We wish it was different, but at least it'll be a step towards graduation. And then on Tuesday the 9th, this is the big test for all of us. We will have teachers on the buses, only 4 teachers, 3 or 4 per bus to adhere, to social distancing guidelines, deliver the students' cap and gowns, also deliver their senior gifts. We have a little message in there, programs for the night of graduation. So it's a test run for the buses and our staff that are going to be on the buses, but it's also a way to give a little personal touch to the festivities. So we're going to drop off their cap and gowns at their house. And then Thursday, June the 11th, 6 o'clock is graduation. And I think we have a pretty good plan, and we're adding to it weekly as to how we can continue to make it a formal event while still being at home. So it's tough to match those 2 things, but we've got a lot of great ideas, and we think it's going to work out very well. So graduation is we're going to start right at 5:59 like we always do, with pomp and circumstance, taped by our band members are going to do a tape instead of being live like they usually are. And then after that, we have the national anthem and alma mater sung by our choral association. So again, they're taping it. So it's an event where we're including the students. And then from there, we're going to do our speeches, announce each student's name with their picture. And then we're going to go live with the delivering of the diplomas at approximately 6:35. And we're looking to get everything done within the hour. We're working with the police chief and fire companies on making sure they escort us and keep everyone safe throughout the town. And also, we're really looking forward to it being a night of celebration, of course, social distance celebration, but a celebration where at exactly 6:30, 6:35, the whole township is awaiting the diplomas from our school buses. And then lastly, the school bus app, which we've been promoting over and over again. I think this might actually get the app out there and push it over the top. You'll be able to download the app and see exactly where your bus is as it approaches your house. And then the teachers will come off the bus and meet the students near their sidewalk. and present the diplomas. So that's our events. We think it's a nice mix of virtual and a personal touch, and we're just excited to get them going. Does anybody have any questions on anything in particular?
While they're thinking of their questions, Pete, you heard Erica Borby, our high school student, earlier mention this. Mr. Dungy made reference to it. The second proclamation that our commissioners issued, and again, we are incredibly appreciative. Their second proclamation declares June 11th as a day of celebration throughout the township in recognition of our graduating seniors. So we're asking if you live on a street with a senior who's graduating, decorate, cheer that student on when that student is outdoors to receive his or her diploma.
Sounds great. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, thanks, Pete.
Thank you,
Hey,
guys.
I had a quick question. Sorry. Is there, I don't have any decorations or balloons or anything. Is there a place where we could buy a sign or balloons or anything like that?
Yes, and Dr. Rushi's going to share my email that I sent out. We have the lacrosse boosters are selling flags. There's only 30 left because they've had a run on them. And then Miss Patterson sells yard signs. If you're interested in putting a sign on your yard. It also is a fundraiser for our Hall of Fame that helps, do a lot for the school and a lot for scholarships.
Okay, great, thank you.
Kristen?
Mr. Janicki, I just want to thank you and your team for putting all this together. I mean, I know planning for graduation under normal circumstances when you have, kind of a framework that you're working from each year is a huge undertaking in and of itself, but to reinvent everything in the circumstances we're living in, I know that takes a lot of time and thought and attention. And just thank you for being creative and for all the work that you and your team have done to celebrate our seniors.
It's like planning for my wedding all over again.
In a pandemic.
That's great. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Dr. Rushi, anything else? You're muted. Nope.
Sorry, that concludes our reports for this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Next item on the agenda is Secretary to submit for insertion into the minutes the financial report as of April 30th, 2020. That's for information purposes only. Next, I'll accept the motion to approve disbursements from the following funds as listed.
Wiedemann moved.
Larson second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the depositories for district funds as listed.
Fleischer moved.
Minji second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Regal, just talk to the strategy behind these various accounts.
Yeah. The accounts are all within the public school code. And they're all within the framework of the public school code. So they're accounts that have money that's collateralized or it's invested in short-term securities. So they're very liquid, but they're also very secure and provide us with a pretty good rate. So we have a couple of pooled accounts which pool all our money with other school districts and other governments. And we also have our main bank, TD Bank, which does all our bill paying and collects our money with a lockbox for our tax collections, and provides us with a decent return, but it's also collateralized 120% of the amount of money that we have in those accounts. So if something would go wrong with the banking structure, we would be able to cash in the collateralization and have our money. And it's a way of maintaining school districts. So safety is the most important thing, but we also have been getting pretty decent yields up until recently, a couple months ago, and things dropped pretty dramatically. But right now, we're more important is that we have a place to put the money that is safe and secure.
Is there anything new, or is this just reapproving or certifying what we've been doing in the past?
It's required to approve depositories every year. So a lot of these we've been doing for a few years. When I first came 2 years ago, we expanded to the pools, Pliget and Bislaf, which are two large pools that are designed for school districts and townships and are secure. We picked up on them because you have all these districts putting their money into that, and they're getting a very good yield on them, or competitive yield on them. So we're able to expand our investments. And when you have a budget of $130 million and almost $100 million of it's coming in real estate taxes in August and September, and then you have to invest it to cover payrolls and bills all throughout the year, you want to make sure that at least you're getting that plus the interest every 2 weeks to cover your payroll and your bills. So it's just something that's done every May.
Other questions or comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to accept the retirement as listed.
Larson moved.
Crispin second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the appointments as listed.
Snodgrass moved.
Minji second.
Moved in second. Just any discussion from the board? Dr. Rushi, did you have a comment?
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. On that appointment, after an interview process conducted and led by Ms. Christensen, Mr. Anderson, and members of their staff in the technology office, we are thrilled to be asking you this evening to approve the appointment of Mr. Chris White as a senior network administrator in the district. You may recall we had talked during one of the technology presentations about all the technology that we have in the district and the need for additional support, and particularly looking at in terms of a network administrator. Mr. White is bringing to us 15 years of experience and in a school setting as well, which is also very important. And it's might also be of interest to note is a Haverford Town resident. I look forward to an actual in-person meeting when the board can be together and Mr. White can attend and have a chance to meet. But for tonight, we want to thank you for your consideration of this appointment and welcome Mr. White.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll accept the motion to approve the leave requests as listed.
Larson moved.
Crispin second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looks like we're at the next regular public board meeting, unless somebody wants to correct me.
Board reports?
Board reports.
Thank you. How about those board reports? Antoinette?
Sure. I just, as I do every time, I just want to thank all of our teachers, staff, and parents for helping our students through this time. I do also have a PSA, and it is that all of the doctors in our area and around the country are recommending that you keep up with your child's vaccinations. And I just want to remind folks that if your child is turning any age, you should make sure that they are getting vaccinated. That's going to be really important for opening. We're all waiting for a coronavirus vaccine, and we have lots of vaccines already that are keeping our children safe. So I just want to put that out there to make sure that folks are still doing that.
Great, thanks. Ari?
No report. Thank you.
Dave?
No report.
Kristen?
Let's see. So I guess talking about construction tonight felt like an act of hope that eventually we're going to go back to normal and that students will populate our buildings once again. So that was uplifting and a silver lining. So it's exciting to see those construction projects underway, or at least the planning for them. Just want to thank everyone for, all the hard work and thought that's been put into trying to keep things as normal as possible in these incredibly abnormal times. So thank you to our teachers, students, families, administrators. The end of the school year is near. So yeah, just stay safe, stay healthy, and keep your head up.
Great. Laura?
Yeah, I had the pleasure to attend both days of Advocacy Day. Was that last week? Every day feels like the same. That was last week. So I was able to meet with all of our representatives on both days. And it was my first Advocacy Day. I was hoping to get to Harrisburg and see everything there, but Zoom worked just as well. I think that we are very fortunate that our representatives at the state level really are strong advocates for public education. And I really do think that they are, at least in my opinion, doing everything that they can do to, to help us get the funding that we need so that we can provide high quality education for the kids in all of Pennsylvania. So that was really, it was nice to talk with them and hear their perspective and hear some of their ideas. So yeah, hopefully next year I'll be able to attend again in Harrisburg. That would be great. So yeah.
Thanks. Sal?
I too had the opportunity to attend the Advocacy Day. We are lucky here in Haverford. For those who don't know, Larry is a regional and state rock star when it comes to legislative happenings. So it's nice to be able to have him advocate for us. Some of the superintendents, including Dr. Rucci, were also on some of the calls from our area to kind of help to tell our representatives and our senators exactly what we're facing. So to Dr. Rucci, thank you for your participation as well in that and kind of leading the charge for us. I felt like it was some really good discussions, and I was happy to be a part of it along with the other representatives from our school district. So the other thing is just, anecdotally, I was driving the other day, and it's so nice to see all the signs up from everybody in the community. Amidst all of the craziness of what's happening, we're still able to celebrate our students, and I feel privileged to be in such a community that supports our students like that. So it's just nice to see.
Great, thanks, Sal. Susan?
I just want to congratulate Pete and everyone that was on that committee for doing the best job they could with the graduation. I know there are a lot of kids that are going to be excited. They're going to be outside getting their diplomas, and I congratulate everyone on figuring out a way to celebrate them. That's it, Larry. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Bridget?
I just want to add my appreciation for all the efforts that are going on to celebrate the efforts of our students. And I love seeing the signs. This past weekend, Chestnut Wald PTO held their traditional chestnut walled chase, but did it in a, come when you can, more virtual and social distance way. And it's nice to see that creativity and activity and community spirit still out there and on display. I had a couple other things I wanted to mention. In addition to participating in the Advocacy Day, that was more for board members and superintendents with the state representatives. Tomorrow is an interesting opportunity organized by PCCY called a Teen Town Hall, and I'll be Zooming in for that. And it's a chance for students around Delaware County to talk to, in this case, Mary Gay Scanlon, and describe from their point of view what's going on in the schools, why funding and support is important, and probably shedding some light on their experience with these COVID closures. So I look forward to seeing all the students in our own June Park participating in that tomorrow and helping advocate for our public schools. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and just wanted to comment on how important it is for everyone to take time to connect with others, get out in nature, take time for yourself, and kind of focus on the things that you can control. And if you need help, or your child is struggling to, with anxiety or stress or depression, reach out. There are resources available, and there's resources available on the district website and under the COVID section. So just wanted to kind of reiterate how important it is to take care of everybody's mental health and wellness, and say that for folks who don't know, that our schooling is being set up with Fridays for students to not have new learning, but to be able to have that wellness time to catch up and check in and kind of take a break and reconnect with their family, and hopefully everyone takes the opportunity to do that. I also just wanted to give a shout out to all the high school kids who took the AP exams this week and these past 2 weeks in kind of unusual circumstances. I hope everybody was, felt well prepared, had their notes ready, had good Wi-Fi connections, and it inevitably seemed to me that when my daughter was sitting down to take tests, somebody started a weed whacker or a lawnmower. So hopefully the distractions were minimal for everybody, and kids did well with those tests. And I also wanted to give a shout out to about a really nice article that was in Penn Live, recognizing Joanne Patterson's tenure and legacy as an athletic director here in our township. So you can go to the Penn Live, PA Prep Live website and read that really nice article honoring her legacy. And just one last thing I wanted to mention, since it's Memorial Day weekend, which is traditionally the Frisbee State Championship weekend, and I had been looking forward to going and cheering on our women's team, and hopefully having them be defending their state title. So instead of doing that, I'll just say 2 years reigning state champs, and go Huda. Thanks.
Thanks, Bridget. I'd like to follow up on the comments about Advocacy Day and thank the members of the board who were able to participate. We had over 230 school board members and superintendents statewide that were able to participate in those Zoom meetings. I want to thank Representative Zabel, Representative Vitale, and Senator Leach for making time for us to meet and listening to our concerns. We had good meetings with all of those. On the second day, there was a countywide meeting with all 4 of the state senators that represent Delaware County, and it was a great opportunity to engage them. The Teen Town Hall that is scheduled for tomorrow morning in Delaware County, there were similar events that took place in Bucks County on May the 8th and Montgomery County on May the 15th, and both Dr. Rushi and I had an opportunity to participate in those, and the students were eloquent, just talking about their experiences this year. And both of those events were very well attended by state legislators also. So to see a vehicle for our students to interact directly with our elected officials, I think is a real win-win for everybody. And right now it sounds like we're going to have a great participation tomorrow morning. I think that at least 13 out of our 15 Delaware County districts are pretty heavily vested in the event tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that. The board met in executive session to discuss personnel matters. Any other comments or questions from the board? Next regular public board meeting is scheduled to be held on June the 4th, 2020. Same Zoom time, same Zoom place. Thank you, everybody. And I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Crispin moved.
Snodgrass, second.
Thanks, everybody. Got my stapler. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.